making meaning of life. I grew up thinking that perhaps I will be a lawyer because in school I could be okay in the debating team, so maybe that's what I will do. So somehow along the way, I became an accidental psychologist. So this is how it happened. It was the last year of school, and that's about the time when you really have to make a decision on what subject am I going to choose to do at university, and because then that would set my career. And I knew I had to look for scholarships because I came from a family of 5 children. My father was the only wage earner. And I knew that for him to send 5 of us to university would be tough. So I started looking for scholarships. So the Public Service Commission had this list of scholarships. And a friend of mine alerted me, hey, this is there, why don't you take a look at it? And I did. And I looked, there was no law. There were 2 courses there which I thought looked quite interesting. One was hotel management, and the other was psychology. So I thought, okay, hotel management will be my first choice because the place of study was Hawaii. And I could see myself surfing in the blue sea. Psychology, well, I don't know what it is. Let me try and understand. I looked up a dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, and it said it's a study of the mind. So I thought to myself, I have no idea what the mind is, so let me go study it. Maybe I can find out. So that's how it became the first step, right? So I go for this interview at the Public Service Commission, and lo and behold, all the men who sit on the interview board decided I was not to do hotel management, I was to do psychology. So that's how I started as an accidental psychologist. So I thought, good, now I can find out something about the mind, okay? I knew that maybe somewhere it's there in the brain. However, after I finished the course, what I came away with, and I also did philosophy. I did up to 2nd year moral philosophy. But I had to do biology as well. So then I came away at the end of the course with the understanding that the brain is electrical impulses. And messages are sent that way through electrical impulses, and they're neurotransmitters. And you need to have certain chemicals that will move about in the brain so that we can function. But where is the mind? Where is the mind? Okay, so I came back with my degree, came to Singapore, and the first job I had under scholarship was not as a psychologist. And so I served out my bond not as a psychologist. And therefore, as I was working with people during my bonded service, a friend of mine, a colleague, said to me, well, you know, you studied psychology, right? And you're not putting it to use now. Why don't you volunteer? Why don't you volunteer with the Suicide Prevention Agency, because they are looking for volunteers, and you studied psychology, so maybe you can do something. So I thought, okay, maybe I can do something. She said, it's going to be tough, okay, to get into there. They will have 2 interviews, and you need to go possibly for a 3rd interview. And you have to go through a training program, and in that training program, there are several weeks of it, and you could be knocked out at any stage, and you have to start from the bottom. I said, okay, all right, because when I sit in the bus and go to work and come back, and I look at the people walking in the streets, I see that mostly people are fairly composed. They have a fairly good face. And even in the office where I worked, people were very composed. Clients would come in, they would look up and attend to them, and everything was very calm and matter of fact. And I wondered, what was actually going on behind that face? There must be some emotion. There must be something that drives them. And I would like to know what that is. I would like to see beyond the face, maybe understand what is going on in their mind behind the face. And if I did this work in the Suicide Prevention Agency, I could then get in touch with what really impacts people in a very deep way. And perhaps, having studied psychology, maybe I could do something. So 2 years down the road, I already have children. So I said, they kicked me up to be a consultant. So consultant means that when something difficult happens, you get a call. So I had a call on a Sunday morning. It was a Sunday morning, it was mid-morning, and what I was told on the phone is, there is a man on the ledge in a high-rise apartment, and he has been there for 3 to 4 hours already. He's a Caucasian. We don't know very much about him. We received the call from his friends who are in this room with him, and they've been trying to get him off the ledge, but he is threatening to jump. So, consultant, maybe you could do something. So I went that Sunday morning, and when I reached the apartment, it was a high-rise apartment, there was a room full of people. There were people who had been sharing that apartment the night before with this European man who was a tourist who was visiting. And this man was sitting on the ledge. And the police were there, the fire people were there, and a room full of friends of the others who were there, and my colleagues from the Suicide Prevention Agency. It was 3 to 4 hours, it was hot. And the police said, we have been checking out whether we can go from the top or from the bottom to try and grab him, but it's not viable. And because it is so high, even with a safety net underneath, if he fell, if he jumped, that's it. The safety net isn't going to help. So my friends told me, perhaps you can do something. So I went to the ledge. Most of them were in the room, not quite out there. I went up to the ledge, to the portico, and he said, don't come any closer. He had on a pair of shorts. He was bare-topped. I can still see his face, Caucasian. And I said, it's been a hot day, and you've been there for 3 to 4 hours. Would you like some water? And he said, okay, but you don't come close. So they brought some water, and I put it close enough so he could reach out and take the water. And so he did, and he had a drink of water. Before we could proceed any further, one of the women who are staying in that apartment, also a Caucasian, took a chair out and brought it close up to the balcony and started reading from the scriptures very loudly, seated in a chair. And the man was visibly upset, perturbed by this. And then she closed it and she said, God wants you. And he said, then he can have me. And he fell backwards to his death. I cried for several days after that for this man, whom I'd never met before, I cried for a wasted life. And I wondered, what was it that led him to think that life had no more meaning for him? What's the point? What's the point? Perhaps he had met with failures. Perhaps he could not live up to his own expectations. There must have been disappointments, spoiled dreams. What could have helped? The basic tenet in all suicide prevention agencies across the world is that if a person who is suicidal gets an inkling that even one person cares enough to listen to them and to hear them out, they will hold back that intention to kill themselves at that point of time. So, what is a meaning of life, and how do we make meaning of life? None of us chose to be born. None of us chose our fathers and mothers. And here we are. We did not choose the country of our birth. So what do we make of our existence? How do we make meaning of life now that we are here? Over the last 3 years, I have spent some time working with women diagnosed with breast cancer. We have run successfully, with me as the lead facilitator, 6-day workshops. We've done 12 workshops so far. And each workshop consists of 20 to 30 women who come from an age range of 26 to 72, of all ethnicities, different backgrounds, different beliefs, some with no particular affiliation to any faith or religion. Stage 0 to stage 4. And invariably, no matter what their background is, at some stage in that workshop, they say, why me? Why me? Some think they found the answer, and they say, I led a very stressful life before this, and so that's why. Some say, maybe I didn't eat the right things. But there are also some who say, I lived life according to how everybody said is the good way to do it, the healthy way to do it. I exercised, I ate a macrobiotic diet, I went vegetarian. I did everything that everyone said you should do to prevent breast cancer. Those who had children, some of them said, I breastfed my babies for a long time. So why? Why me? This means that I cannot see my children growing up. I cannot see my grandchildren. I cannot see my kids through school. And there were those young women who were not married or who had just married, and for whom the treatment meant they could not have children. And they cried, why me? As the workshop progressed, sometimes by the second day, but sometimes even the last one we did, even by the afternoon of the first day, and definitely by the end of the 6 days, the women were united. The women were united because they felt a bond with each other. And the workshop was structured in such a way that when I asked them the question, are you alone in this journey? They could say no. And will you look out for each other? And they said yes. And by the end of the 6-day workshop, initially when they signed up, they said 6 days is too long. By the 5th day, they said this is too short, By the 6th day, when they left, they were strong. because they had this connection. They had this connection, and they had made meaning of their life. They were not alone, and they would look out for each other. Fast forward now to a case of Alzheimer's. In an aging population, everyone grows old. That is the journey, older. Not everyone gets Alzheimer's, but as we grow older, we do lose certain capacities, physical flexibility, power, and also memory. Memory becomes a challenge. In Alzheimer's, memory goes away. Some people diagnosed with Alzheimer's, the decline is very swift. Sometimes within a year, they lose their functions. Some progress to a stage where they are bedridden, they cannot speak, they have to be intravenously fed. And yet others hang on for years. And they keep on trying. They keep on trying to make a connection. And so, what makes the difference? How do you make meaning of life when you are in that state, when we cannot have coherence? The only meaning that comes through then is a sense of connection with the people around us. Maybe one person, maybe more people, but people who care enough to say, it's okay, it's all right. If you don't remember who you are, it's okay. So we go through life, and when we are fit and we are well and we are okay, we think we have wonderful aspirations. We want to make discoveries. We want to meet challenges. We want to make that accolade part of ours. We have great hopes. We struggle against all sorts of challenges. But what when we fail, or we cannot? Then, or we don't even have a sense of who we are, then what? Then what? Do we come to the point of saying, what is the point? The only thing that makes sense for us at that point of time is when another human being reaches out to us and says, it is okay, I'm here. TED audience, this is what I would exhort you to do, especially when you see someone who looks like they could do with a little bit of help or a little bit of support. Reach out and say, it's okay, I'm here.